Live.
Yo, what up, what up, what up, and welcome everybody. Welcome back to Pinoy Live. How y'all doing? Man, listen. Yo, all right. So tonight on the show, we got TK Mal, my boy Max Jerome, motherfucking Dean, Max Dean S mate. You know how the hell this works. Man,
Call me Max.
I did invite, you know what I'm saying? A special guest tonight, but I'll be honest with you, the motherfucker legitimately did not get back to me. So fuck it, we're doing what it is that we do. We're gonna run through some things tonight. Number one on my motherfucking mental at the moment is China versus the United States. Well, basically China versus Taiwan. And the reasons why they're making the moves that they're making right now and what's been going on over the past week that, the news is kind of just, putting on the back burner. By the way, what up on Clive Hard, motherfucking Nicholas Donka, Germander Loki, son, nice to see you out. Right. And we're gonna go over some of that stuff. But first things first, let's say what up to our guest, motherfucking Max. How the fuck you doing, man?
Oh, just saying hi to everybody in the chat myself, and otherwise, just watching as things as what looks like a real calm before the storm. With the new administration, they're gonna get their little honeymoon, and then I'm gonna watch. Ooh, we're gonna talk tonight, ain't we?
We got lots of stuff going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, uh, I got a job at a place that makes war machines, so I'm feeling pretty decent
Oh,
about my future at the moment.
oh, gee whiz, job security. The U.S. military-industrial complex continues to grow amazingly during all this. In fact, we got a whole new space force. So yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
somehow we didn't start a new war over the past 4 years, so that's helpful. You know what I mean? Kind of where we're at. Like, all right, so what's been happening over the past week is China has been increasing its military flights and military exercises over top of Taiwan, while the United States has decided to tell, the world, Thomas Cook, well, yeah, no, welcome. Brad Young, motherfucking, her Dr. Nappy, nice to see you out. Right. Yeah. So, it's been a week of the Biden presidency. It's about time we started expanding the wars. We put more troops into Syria, over the last week. I think that was day one thing is he decided to expand the wars in the Middle East and cancel the Keystone XL pipeline so that the United States was, relying upon Saudi Arabian oil. So we would have a reason to be over there. And, we decided that we are going to, reaffirm our support for Taiwan while China has decided that it wants Taiwan back. And I think the main reason is because they can't escape the South China Sea with um the fucking boats and shit that they have right now, their naval vessels, and they want to be able to do so. So what they're going to do is they're going to use Taiwan as a platform to be able to try and protect some more what's the word I'm looking for here, trade routes and things of this nature, going around the South China Sea and coming into it.
Can I give a few
You're
historical observations on this
Yeah,
that
go
might
ahead,
help
man,
the
go ahead,
audience? But
go
but
ahead.
before I do, can we say hi TK Mal? Thank you very much for joining, along with everybody in the chat, and I'll go ahead. But I want to hear other perspectives because I do not know everything. My pet peeve is people who pretend they know everything. I used to pretend to know I knew everything a lot,
Nigga, then
and
say what the fuck it is,
all right, what I do know, in case you guys don't know, Taiwan is this little island off the coast of China. I mean, it's not that little, but I mean, compared to the rest of China, it's not very big at all. And when China went communist under Mao, basically the nationalist contingent of Chinese that had been fighting Mao more or less retreated to the island of Taiwan, and declared themselves the official Republic of China. Whereas, the People's Republic of China is the rest of China. Taiwan insists that it is China and that it is the only legitimate government of China. And the United States has protected the government of Taiwan ever since. I don't remember what year it began, but I mean, we're going back to not, 40s, 50s. And Taiwan is incredibly valuable as a seaport. It's right up there with the Philippines, with Singapore, Hawaii, and just how powerful it is if you want to be doing business in the South Pacific. And the U.S. Okay, the weird status of Taiwan is that like the U.S. does not officially recognize their government and hasn't since Nixon, but has instead uh, 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 had what you would call a special relationship with Taiwan, in which Taiwan is not quite granted nationhood status. They have a representative at the UN, but they aren't considered quite a country because they insist they're real China, and other China, and the big China says no, you're not. And the big China wins, but Taiwan has this weird special status because the U.S. Navy has been protecting them for you know uh, 50 plus years, 70 plus years probably, and that's been the stalemate between China and the United States for generations. We're protecting Taiwan no matter
Well,
what.
recently we started sending delegations to Taiwan again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, under the last administration or the current one?
Under the last administration,
Okay.
recently, like real recently. You know, what I
So
mean, like
we'll
fucking
see.
December.
We'll see. But I mean, the People's Republic of China has for years rattled its saber and said it may go military on Taiwan, but has always been rattling its sabers. I mean, it's talking about 50 years of saber rattling here, threatening Taiwan and never really doing anything. On the other hand, there's an awful lot of signs right now that this time they ain't kidding, and that they
Oh,
really may do it, and that they may
all right.
go for more than China, the Taiwan. So that's some
Can I?
history. So now,
Yo,
Can
go,
I?
yo,
shut up.
yo. Let's let TK Mal get in on
I'll
this.
shut up now.
Yeah, yeah. So here's a little bit of perspective that I gained from. I actually got the chance to talk to an investor from Taiwan a couple of months back, and we were just bullshitting about some companies over there. And so it turns out that it the Chinese conquest of Taiwan, if they try to do such a thing, is going to be something that's really, really gonna be touchy in that they China cannot afford to actually, put boots on the ground in Taiwan because it turns out that basically all of China's retirement funds are tied up in a company called TSMC because a lot of the China, the one of the most common retirement investment strategies over there in China is to invest in dividend paying stocks. And TSMC is one of the very few dividend paying stocks. It's also one of the very few stocks that actually has as whole lot of really, really valuable assets because what they make is computer chips, and they make the most advanced computer chips in the world right now.
They make
And
the most computer chips in the world right now.
right, and it's they're kind of in a precarious situation on that whole thing because what happens is that you actually manufacture the chip and then they send it over to China where they put it on the board and put all the PCBs and all that kind of nonsense. So they're in a really weird position where they really, really, really need Taiwan to be a part of China again, just so that they can have full vertical integration of all their exports as far as electronics go. Because like TSMC has started to be trying to cuddle up to, America, and that's why they're putting in a plant over there in Arizona, right? Um, so what China needs to do is they need to take over the entire island without hurting the infrastructure. Because if it even disturbs the infrastructure a little bit, or even just, some crazy workers just decide to light it on fire, then they are going to be in a complete world of shit as far as that goes. So, not just because of like the actual industrial capacity, because like it silicon foundries are extremely, extremely expensive. They're like $2 billion a pop, right? And they've got multiple ones of those, and they take years to build. Like they've got ones that they're not even they're building ones that they're not even planning to have operational for another 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my understanding of kind of where the cards lay out on China and Taiwan, where they really, really need the island, but they need the island intact. So I don't. So my guess would be that they're going to try to do some sort of naval blockade and maybe a no-fly zone or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
you're not.
all right, let me chime in on that area, right? Because all right, so US has been selling fucking Taiwan massive amounts of defensive missile systems for the past like fucking 50 years. And they have basically the same ones that Israel has. You know what I'm saying? Like those fucking really, really, really good ones. And on top of that, Taiwan is surrounded by like this giant like fucking like coral reef root structure the whole way around this like the back side of the island that faces towards China, and it would be extremely difficult for China to be able to really navigate and get in there and do what they wanted to do, and it would be very, very costly for them to try to actually invade the island itself, just due to the fact that like Taiwan would sit there and just launch missiles at them all fucking day long and blow the shit out of anything that comes their fucking way and just launch off at all their ships and fucking airplanes and things of this nature. So like understand like this is a very precarious situation for China to be in, and I understand why they want the island, right? But like on the same point, their ability to take it and the United States having, you know, I mean, signed that, you know, I mean, defense pact with them, and Japan signing that defense pact with them, and Vietnam signing that defense pact with them, and Korea signing that defense pact with them, and Australia signing that defense pact with them, makes it rather hard for China to be able to really get this job done the way they want to. So I'm like legitimately like this is a World War III scenario if China really tries any dumb bullshit at this point.
Uh, okay, can I give my perspective?
Go ahead, man.
Um, uh, from one of the two things that are worth reading about reading, if you ever can, is read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. You can get free translations of it off of Project Gutenberg, and it's hilarious because this book is so short that the commentators and the bibliography are much longer than the book itself. The book is, I don't know, you could probably read it in a half hour, easy, even if you're not that
Yeah,
fast.
it's a super short read, legitimately.
Right, but then legitimately, you can spend the entire rest of your life rereading and seeing depths and layers and more layers into that, and it is very embedded in the psychology of how the Chinese do war, and one of the things is that they're very, very, very patient. They do think in decades and generations. One of the the maxims is that the supreme general wins his victory without fighting at all. And then, of course, if you can't, a lot of it is the rest of it is, well, if you are going to war anyway, if you are going to fight anyway, here's how you do it. And it's all quite crafty but commonsensical, but often crafty. But I mean, the starting is if you can avoid the fight completely or get your enemies to fight for you, that is just the supreme art of war. And that's how their generals think. That's how their strategists think. And then and so they excel at economic warfare. They excel at taking people's food supplies. They excel at buying up land instead of taking it militarily. And this is ancient Chinese thinking. This isn't even new. And so always remember that, and then look into what modern theorists on warfare call fourth and fifth generation warfare. Like there's a guy named NC Scout looking into it, and this is the sort of thing the Chinese are good at too. Basically in fourth and fifth generation warfare, the only difference between fourth and fifth is that the fifth generation brings in cyberspace. But
I
is
have a
the target
question.
population?
I have a question for you, right?
Yeah.
Legitimately, name a war that China's won.
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, besides their internal ones, you mean, and the various dynasties? Yeah, they don't tend to.
Name one.
You know what? You're catching me flat-footed. Why don't you go ahead and give me some? Are there
There
any?
isn't any. There aren't any. They always get their ass kicked. Like every time they've ever gone to war outside of their borders, they got their fucking asses handed to
They're
them.
enormous borders. Okay, but let me just keep going anyway, because you're right, and actually, I would agree that a boots on the ground invasion per se, at least of a large scale, seems unlikely. Okay, so I'm with you guys on that. A boots. I mean, there will be boots on the ground. There's reason to believe there already are in North America, but that may be just rumors and bullshit.
Okay, all right. Here's
You don't
go ahead,
need
you-
the
go ahead.
boots on the ground. That's not how
Wait,
they
wait.
want to fight.
Wait a
That's
minute,
not how they
TK,
want
go
to
ahead.
fight. But
TK, go ahead. TK, go ahead, bro.
I mean, you're not wrong. The only one that I've got Wikipedia up here. The only one that I can really find is when they took over Tibet, but that's part of China. So
Yeah, that's one.
claim that
These
it's
are
part of China.
these are internal things, right? So
Tibet
like,
is not right now.
here's the thing. Like here's the thing about China, right? China legitimately has not become a world player in the history of fucking China or the world until the United States allowed them to do business with everywhere else. Until we secured all their fucking trade routes, until we stood here and allowed them to fucking import shit without having to actually like, you know what I mean, like defend their fucking long trade routes, they weren't shit, right? And that all leads
They were
into
content to
United.
be.
Well, it's not that. It's the fact that China is a heavy resource dependent country, right? Because it
Mhm.
doesn't have a grain basket like America has. It doesn't have natural oil resources like America has. It doesn't have steel resources like America has. It doesn't have any of the things it needs to fucking sustain itself in a long-term fucking, you know what I mean, overseas war.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
it's
why
also
So
go ahead. Go ahead, TK.
it's also worth noting that even though China definitely has, and the Asian countries in general, this is actually relevant too. They do have an advantage in as far as they have people who actually, like, the lay people can think in terms beyond their own lifetime, and that is super useful for a lot of different things like land acquisition and that type of thing. But I think it's worth noting that even the populations that have similar IQs to the West, they have much lower curiosity than we do. Uh, we do, meaning Americans, Europeans, that type of thing, even Russians. They're just not as curious as the rest of the world for whatever reason. And that means that even if they have a technology, they don't really innovate. They just kind of do whatever they see it being done, which, there's definitely advantages to that. But it also means that once they, like, if they succeed in taking down the West and actually take over the world in some way, shape, or form, they're just going to stagnate, technologically speaking, because they don't have a good way to not just innovate, but they don't have a good way to, like, bring new blood into the society, as far as, okay, you're doing something a little bit crazy there, but I see you've got something, so we'll give you a shot. They're not nearly as able to do that.
Can I add on? Can I add on to what you were saying real quick? Because I think that's a beautiful thought pattern. This mentality, I think, comes from the fact that they've always been internally divided, right? Like the Han Chinese, which is, what China is today. It's the Han Chinese running things. This has never really been a long-term solution for them, right? And, the 20,000 year history of China, legitimately, like, most of the time, it's always been different fucking groups inside of China in that area being called China or being called Sino, right? And so, like, they're very weary of outsiders, because anytime one of them, has a chance to run China, like, the other groups inside of the country will end up causing civil unrest and, destroy the, empire rather quickly, or the fucking country as a whole rather quickly, And so they don't like innovation. They don't like outsiders. They don't like new people coming in. This is why, like, the Asian countries in general are really, really, fucking standoffish about having immigration and things of this nature. Like, they don't like that shit, because the only time that happens is like when the Japanese come and sack the shit out of China, or the Koreans went and sack the shit out of China, or when China tried to go after the Vietnamese and they got their fucking asses handed to them, right? Like, this happens on a regular basis. So they're very wary of outsiders. They don't really commingle and fucking, interbreed all like that with anyone else, because they don't like that at all. And, this is one of the reasons why they don't innovate. They're not open to new people, like they actually are. Michael Hatfield, what up? By the way, Talbot Lakes, Vidar, Monk Farmer, Hound Dog, Dark Star, how the fuck y'all doing tonight? Nice to see you out here. If I miss anybody, I apologize, right? But like, yeah, that's really, why China is the way it is as a whole. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and just kind of reinforcing your point there, China had gunpowder, basically explosive powder, for generations and never made firearms. Basically the same generation that it came to Europe, they started making guns.
Okay, so these are all fascinating observations about Chinese culture and history. Although I think these are all things that make it sound like, well, China can't possibly succeed in any aims that it has now. There's another way of looking at China, in that they have long, for thousands of years, been content to hold a certain amount of territory under certain dynasties, and otherwise to be an imperialist power toward all these little smaller countries that don't like them, like North Korea, or like Korea, and Vietnam and Thai, and argue, there's an awful lot of people from freaking Tibet who will tell you, no, we were never part of China, screw you. So it's not quite that clear, but I agree, just because of its hugeness and all that, the Chinese cultural psychology is mostly as you describe. For all these historical reasons. Now, but let's talk about the reality that it does look like we're gearing up to war, and let's look at how things can change. I would recommend a documentary to everybody called "Princes of the Yen," which got a Singapore world. Singapore's relation to China the rest of China is interesting too, but it got a film festival there. It talks about how the Chinese central bankers manipulate world currencies and manipulate world events, very much like people so stereotypically talk about our I'm almost afraid to get struck for saying the word we're Jews, but I'm saying it in a nice way.
Our brothers of Abraham.
Our brothers in Abraham. I actually really have a really good friend who's a rabbi. I'm not kidding. There's nothing.
Yeah, one of my mentors was Jewish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah. But like, you watch this documentary and you see how China has been using its power, its financial power, quite in imperialistically aggressive ways, and that's hidden in the top of it. Of the story of how they've never been a good expansionist power or whatever. Well, they've always liked having vassal states, who had to bow to the emperor even if they weren't part of China.
Well, it's not so much vassal states as it was they liked having trading partners. They liked having trading partners. Well, no, they liked having trading partners who, relied upon them. So like they could like put leverage over top of them.
Yeah, and right now, China, whatever innovation can be bought. That's certainly something they figured out, bought or copied. And as I probably don't have to tell you, the Chinese have made massive investments all over North America, and it is not at all wrong to say now that a huge number of American politicians have Chinese friends. Furthermore, in the 20th century, most warfare is conducted now under what's called fourth and now fifth generation warfare. Fourth generation, and this type
hang
of
on.
warfare.
But wait. I don't want you misleading people about this point, right? Understand, like, a lot of that Chinese money is currency flight. It's people who are trying to hedge their bets against the Chinese government. It's not they're investing for China itself.
Okay, that's an interesting point of view that is being portrayed a lot in the global news. I can only say there's reasons to question if that narrative is as true as you think it is. Um,
Oh, it
um,
is. It is. It's
and
because like
and
they,
but
they
definitely they want billionaires not fleeing and being independent. Don't get me wrong, but they want billionaires having, and they want, more importantly, their corporations, because that's the big word. Big corporations love doing business with in China, and they also like buying things like the Panama Canal and substantial investments in Canada and parts of the United States. And they have the ability, these Chinese corporations have the ability to buy politicians. And I mean, so under current thinking, one theory is that, oh no, China's just too weak and it's trying to hold on to its capital. And another is, here's the thing. Look at Sun Tzu again. He said that the best way of winning a war is not to fight at all. A B is to appear weak when you are strong.
But they're not. They're not. It's not. That's not. These
Let
aren't.
me finish
Not
my
buying.
words.
I know, but they're not buying shit to win a war.
Dude,
Right. What I'm saying is like you're legitimately, all right. Yes, you have. Or see, because there's like 3 or 4 different parts of this, and like we're legitimately breaking it down. And I hate the mentality that you're portraying that it's the Chinese state who are making these moves,
yeah,
and right.
yeah,
That's
well,
a
you can hate
falsehood.
the mentality, but it's not. I don't agree with you that it's a falsehood.
It
So
is though, because like you have to understand. All right. So, for instance, let me put it this way. Right. If I sell Hershey's bars, but I don't work for Hershey, right? And you know, what I mean, like, I'm trying to sell Hershey bars to fucking Vietnam, or whatever the case might be, right? And I have a good thriving business of selling Hershey bars to motherfucking Vietnam. Because of the fact that, like, yes, that benefits Hershey, it doesn't mean that I'm working for Hershey. I'm working for me, is
yeah,
kind of the deal. Right. And
um,
I think that's kind of the part where I'm like, you're missing the fact. You know what I
well,
mean? That like there's a lot of people working for themselves who are out here, you know what I mean, fucking lobbying politicians
where,
and are out here, you know what I mean, doing these type of things. But they're doing it for international trade, yes, but they're doing it for international trade for themselves. And they're
okay,
not doing it under the guise of the Chinese government.
okay. So you're not necessarily wrong about that, although, let me finish the thought that, again, from Sun Tzu, appear weak when you are strong and appear strong where you are weak. This is also the Chinese mentality of war. A channel I also recommend on top of Princes of the Yen is a channel called China Uncensored, which I watch semi-regularly. I really like it.
Hi, Sherry. How you doing, by the way?
It talks actually about the way the Chinese media talk out of both sides of their mouth constantly, and they have a lot of good stuff they show on China. They aren't a conspiracy channel either. They use legit sources. Another one to read is the Epoch Times, because it's basically a Taiwanese government mouthpiece. A difference that Tom Pinoy and I have here, obviously, is that I believe that all Chinese corporations are extensions of the Chinese state and the Chinese Communist Party, straight up, every single one of them. The billionaires pretty much are allowed to do things, but not. Ultimately, I think the party truly controls these corporations, and it dictates what they're going to be allowed to do and not. And if they want to be an expansionist power, they don't need many boots on the ground to take places like Taiwan and Hawaii and maybe parts of the United States, by simply having paid off enough fucking politicians and stooges to do what they want. And therefore not needing that many boots on the ground, because they've already got enough people on their side here because they've bought them. Not just politicians either, but people within corporations. If you think Silicon Valley is not riddled with Chinese spies, you're out of your mind.
I know. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, here's the problem. Like, here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. Like, anyway, here's the problem I have, right? And this is my major issue, is stating, complete and utter facts, right? Is like going like you're standing here and like you're kind of portraying it as, oh man, like the only China, like the only way you're going to be Chinese and working in Silicon Valley is if you're a fucking spy, which is not
No,
true.
not at all. Not at all
Yeah, I
true.
know, but that's how this is coming across. Is what I'm
Well, it's
telling
not
you.
what I believe. In fact, your best Chinese spies will be black or blonde haired and blue eyed and simply well paid. That's how that
No,
works.
I'm gonna say this like this. Do you know about Cerrito, California?
Well, no, I don't know about Cerrito in specific. I know a lot about Silicon Valley in particular, but go ahead.
Okay, Cerrito, California is a suburb in fucking some part of Cali, right? I'm not real sure, but I know Cerrito, California is completely and utterly full of Koreans and Chinese, right?
Sure.
Like literally, you can't live there unless you're Korean or Chinese,
Okay.
right? Like they pretty much keep everybody else out.
Okay.
And
Not surprising.
now, is this a place that's owned by like the Chinese or Korean government? No. Not in any way, shape, or form. But what it is it's a place that legitimately everybody who lives there pretty much works for a company like Samsung, or a company like fucking some like the Taiwanese fucking chip manufacturers and shit, right? And this is something that you're going to have. But the reason why they put that fucking factory here is because of the fact that they go, all right, well, if we put that factory here, right, is the United States government will defend it. We don't have to worry about anybody else fucking with it. We don't got to worry about fucking sending goods, across the fucking oceans. We don't have to worry about anything else. DJ Ronnie G, opinion on. Nice to see you both out here, my brothers.
Hey,
right,
everybody.
bro? I'm just as they walk in the chat, I try to give it up to them. Try to recognize. I like my fans. Show them respect. But yeah, like so, if you have your fucking factory on an American ground, you don't have to worry about fucking whether or not you're going to be able to have to find shipping or whatever. If there's like uprisings,
It's so obvious. Yes, please go on. Yes. Right. Okay. So they aren't military installations. I got it.
Yeah, but this is an important thing to understand. Like, yes, there are Chinese spies, there's Russian spies, there's fucking Pakistani spies, there's fucking Turkish spies, right?
Yes.
SMG, what up, my brother? Right?
Yes.
Fucking, and these are things like, yes, like we should motherfucking most definitely be on the lookout for. But on the same point, when you start talking about capital flight, like, capital flight isn't just something that happened in the US.
Okay.
Right. Like Canada, for instance, like Toronto and Vancouver had their entire real estate market completely driven into shit by Chinese currency flight, not by the Chinese trying to own Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you know everybody's motives, because that's all that was a long rant on what everybody's motives are. And so therefore, nobody has any other motives than the ones you specified. All right. So let me give it to you straight. Under fourth and fifth generation warfare, the target population does not know it's under attack. And that is standard warfare theory for most of what is done around the world today. So listening to you talk about this, it just sounds like a long wind up to why war with China is impossible. Okay, if that's what you think, that's what you think. Just say that, motherfucker. Otherwise, I'm going to say all of these assets owned by Chinese companies in one way or another, are things that they can take, that the Chinese government can reasonably take without much trouble. They're not going to have to take that by arms, number one. Two, I will reiterate my point that many will back me up on. Most Chinese corporations, one way or the other, are extensions of the Chinese government. And that they're very tight that way. And so while I would never suggest that any pool of Koreans and Chinese who don't like each other, by the way, probably know that, so that's why they're probably segregated from each other too. There will certainly be a pool of spies from there, but that would be the dumbest place for them to get most of their spies when they can go to Silicon Valley and they can prowl Stanford University and MIT and find a nerd from Wisconsin to pay very well to work for them. Or for
TK,
somebody
I
from
think, I
your
think, I
fucking
think, I think
neighborhood.
TK, I think TK wants to chime
And
in.
so that's so they can have spies everywhere. They can have they have can have bought quite a few people and quite a bit of influence, and so they might simply be able to say, "This
All
is
I'm
my."
saying is that they can't ship the farmland of Wisconsin back to China.
That would be true. But they certainly could take control of Hawaii, Taiwan. I've talked to people in Hawaii who really think the Chinese are about to do this, that they're just simply going to take Hawaii. There's a lot of serious people think that. Maybe it's rumors. Their ability to take Hawaii would amount to nuking Pearl Harbor and then moving in fast to grab the infrastructure. Boom, it's theirs, because they don't need to have 1 million troops on the ground or even 100,000. I bet you 5,000 would do it, especially because they will have already bought support locally. If,
Uh,
if if war comes, this is how it works.
TK Mao wants to speak.
So
Let's
go
hear him.
ahead now. Yeah.
yeah, like first of all, let them have Hawaii. That's already a communist shithole.
All the line said fuck you, but go ahead. Don't need that many boots. We all get that, right? They don't need that many troops. We all
yeah,
get
yeah.
that, right? Okay, go ahead.
You're not wrong. Where I'd push back on is that it's not that every Chinese corporation is an extension of the Chinese government, right? It's that they exist and continue to do business by the good graces of the Chinese government. That is an important distinction to make. It means that if China has reason to actually ask them to do something, then they will do it so that they don't get some lead in the forehead, right? It's not that every single Chinese company is actively trying to carry out China's will. It's that they're doing, whatever business that they have, they're trying to actually be profitable by, basically selling access to the slave markets and the slave labor in China to the Western world. And I think you're underestimating just how much um, damage that China is relying on Chinese companies to do to Western and global economies by just basically subsidizing them and allowing them to undercut their competition in, the United States and the West and that type of thing.
Okay.
The other thing is that I think China is fully aware of the fact that if they actually go any sort of hard power in the West, that they'd end up killing the golden goose, so to speak, because like you gotta
Okay. So,
you gotta understand that because these people think in generational terms, they understand something that me and Pinoid were talking about the other day, that the manufacturing technology that they imported from the US, when they were importing that, they weren't just importing CNC machines and that type of thing. What they were doing was they were importing ballpark 27 million lifetimes worth of manufacturing work since 1939. That's what they were doing. So it's the amount that they can accomplish by just doing things that aren't illegal and aren't warfare. I think you're underestimating the profit to the Chinese people for doing just that which they are claiming to do out in the open. Now, there's also going to be like the underlying current there, and I think what at least part of what they want is that you're not going to be able to actually determine a lot of these organizations and all of these people's motives. And I think they're kind of relying on that as an also kind of propaganda vector. The other thing that I would point out is that if they're actually relying on like Americans and all that nonsense not knowing that they're at war, then to be honest, they've completely failed, considering the fact that Alex Jones and a bunch of other people have been screaming about this for as long as I've been alive. But I'll go ahead and let you go back at it and start ranting again.
I don't feel that I was ranting, but
You were. You
you
were.
gave no, because I continue to I want to refute you on three major points. You're wrong on the Communist Party not importing its ideology into the United States. You are massively underestimating how strong and powerful the corporate culture that the Chinese bring into these companies that they work here, and that what and the corporate power structure they are bringing in when they acquire American companies. You are underestimating the fact that these people have a substantial contingent among them that are loyal to the party and are loyal to the homeland. It's not even necessarily dishonorable for them to do so. I think you are underestimating how for the last 20, 30 years, China has been used for funding and training for a lot of what goes in our corporate HR departments. So culturally, a lot of what is Chinese, at least communist Chinese ways of doing things, are now just the way big corporations do things, due to Chinese cultural influence in the United States and Canada for the last 30 years, since the end of the Cold War, basically. And you continue to, neither one of you let me even finish a sentence on what fifth generation warfare is. I would like to know what either one of you knows what fifth generation warfare is, because you claim that it's just something Alex Jones has been ranting about
No,
for
I know what it is.
years. No, the way you conduct, basically in fifth generation warfare, everybody's a target and nobody's sure what the fuck's going on at any given time. That's all it is. And I have several reasons to see Alex Jones as pernicious, but fifth generation warfare is a legitimate concept from real war theoreticians. And so one of the only difference between fourth and fifth generation warfare is it's about control of cyberspace as well as everything else. And so all I'm saying to you is that their ability to come into, let's say, even California and just say, hey, guys, we're here to help and we're in charge now. The amount of people who might not just say, okay, we're good with that, especially if the governor's good with that, especially if other political figures are say, yeah, they're here to help us and we're going to go independent from well, again, I don't know at that point. All I hear you guys is underestimating the ability of Chinese money to buy people and things and to control assets.
No, look, man, I understand fully about the fact that they have been standing here and collectivizing fucking soft power throughout the world, especially in Europe in particular, where they bought most of the Greek shipping industry, a bunch of the ports over in Greece and France and Britain.
Now too. Go on.
I know they've gathered up a lot of soft power targets, right? But the issue is what I'm saying is that the Chinese do not have the ability to project hard power. This is the fifth generation warfare that you're talking about. It's the difference between soft power and hard power, right?
Yes.
So the United States are experts at hard power, and we are also experts at soft power. All right. But because of the fact that, for instance, we stand here and have the world reserve currency, and we basically invented that ourselves, and we fucking stood here and had the petrodollar, and we have all the logistical abilities to make sure that places like Europe continue to receive their energy deposits and things of this nature. And we box individuals in and make sure that they have the ability to be able to ship their goods throughout the world. We're experts at soft power now.
Yeah.
The Chinese have been gathering soft power, on a rather large level, especially in Europe, but not in the United States. Right? Okay. They haven't been doing it here anywhere near on the level that they've been doing it in Europe.
No, you're right there. They managed to acquire Apple, and they've acquired some other companies that, all right, you're right. They haven't, not to the level of other countries.
Not like they've done in Europe. Europe's a whole different goddamn ball game when it comes to what the fuck they've allowed China to do over there.
I am stunned.
And
I'm
especially with like things like the United Nations and NATO and the World Health Organization, where I mean they're moving bureaucrats in like standing here having like other like bureaucrats fucking yo man Culliver, welcome my brother. We all you have a wrench, you know what I'm saying? Welcome to the wrench no state. Everybody gets a wrench out this bitch. We also got Pennsylvania in the trash no state yet, and that again, like, we kind of get back to that level as well. Like I live in an immigrant state, so like I don't really fear immigrants the way a lot of other people do, but like I still don't want as many coming in just due to the fact that it drives down labor.
let me ask you both a question. We have rumors of war and harbingers of war with China all over the place, and we have questionable but possible, but but in my eyes, at least, somewhat credible evidence of Chinese troop movements and ship movements right outside, not just invading Taiwanese territory that we're protecting, but of them aggressively going after other U.S. territories, including off the coast of California, that the mainstream is not talking about. Something definitely seems to be up in a big way. So, what is your take on what you think is happening and how a scenario would play out? Let's take it all the way to Los Angeles. Let's just or what's the capital of California again?
First, let me
Capital of California again.
Sacramento.
Let's
Hang on.
take it all the way
Let me say what up to Stalvin's Forge. TK Mao. This is a dude who I want you and him to help me have a stream about that shit that we was talking about, right? Because like I think you and him have way more information about things than I do. Like, and so we're gonna set that up at some point. It might not be during this week because I'm working second shift now, so it might be like next weekend. Apologize. I want to do it last night, but I was dog shit tired.
Okay.
Anyway,
so I want to hear both your perspectives. I want you both to tell me individually what you think a war with scenario like works out. I go to the extreme and say all the way to them taking Sacramento. I think that is plausible. What do you think war with China looks like? It's your turn. Tell me, what do you think it looks like?
I don't think it looks like anything because they can't reach our shores.
Okay. And what do you think, TK?
I honestly think that.
Like, is he talking? I can't hear him.
Yeah, he is talking.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Shut up.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to think about an actual hot war with China because, like, I don't think that any American presidents, even one like Two Stacks Joe, who obviously has, let's just say, business ties to China and leave it at that. I don't think any American president would be able to restrain the war machine from launching the military-industrial complex from launching a preemptive strike once they get like any sort of hint of an actual hard power move by basically any one of America's major enemies. And so I don't think that that's necessarily a scenario that would really play out. However, if we're going to be talking about what China could do if they decided to go all in on actually trying to go to war there, is I think that they'd probably end up trying to take Taiwan before they do anything else. And like as soon as that happens, I think everything blows up in their face because like Australia, I know the Australian government is kind of in the bag for China already, but I do know that there's already growing anti-Chinese sentiment among the actual Australian people, and just because
and Canadians
and Canadians too, yeah. But and the thing about all that soft power is that it's really useful until it gets to the point where soft power is really useful until you start using hard power. unless you've got a position set up like the United States, where we've got this world police type image going on, which isn't real fun for us.
No, it
But
isn't.
no, it's not. But it does grant some legitimacy to any hard power actions that we go through. And so what I think you're going to see before any actual projection of military force uh, from China onto the United States is basically them trying to leverage their soft power to a point that it invokes a response from the U.S.
Well, like,
I
and that's I think that's the same problem with Europe as well. Like they'll end up getting to the point where they try to leverage their soft power, and then things will just get set on fire, right? And then they won't have those things. Like for instance, like they try to say, oh, like these fucking ports and shit. We're gonna tell you you're gonna pay this price, or you're gonna fucking control what goes in and out of here, and the people start getting pissed off. They'll just go burn the port the fuck down.
And all of that seems reasonable. I would definitely say, yeah, even if I'm playing out my scenario of them attempting it on the United States for reals, while it's plausible for them to do it militarily, whether they can sustain it is another matter entirely.
Wait,
I would agree with you
explain how
100%.
they can do it militarily.
Okay, 100%. I want to establish though. I completely agree that if the shit hits the fan with China, it will be when China does something to say, look, no, Taiwan is really ours and we mean it, and they capture it without damaging it too badly. And there's multiple ways they can have accomplished that. A very quick blockade, coup, whatever they got to do. If they're ready, and this time it looks like they might be, that will be your first thing. Moving on aggressively from there, that might take months or weeks of preparation, but it would be the kind of thing that happens real fast because they would want to capture it more than anything. They want to capture cyberspace. They want to capture the internet and communication lines more than anything else.
Okay.
That's still what makes Hawaii most valuable now is actually simply as that communications hub for the internet makes it like one of the most important places in the world.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
All right. I do. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How far can the average Chinese Navy vessel go without refueling?
Oh, I probably not very far. Although I don't know because see, there's conflicting statistics on what Chinese equipment can do.
No, there's really not. There's not.
I
know.
I look at
I
the
can tell you.
they
I
put
can.
out.
Yeah, I can tell you right now. All right, legitimately, right?
Uh-huh.
Fucking only about 10% of their entire fleet can go more than 1,000 miles from port.
Sure.
They don't have the tanker logistical ability to refuel, and they have 2 aircraft carriers, one of which used to be a casino.
Okay. Can I point out a few other things then?
Go ahead.
And you're not wrong because to be honest with you, in the larger meta narrative, I think we're being pushed into war with China that China doesn't really necessarily want. But that's at a different meta net level, right? That's another level of discussion. Let's just talk about military and tactics. They would have to they would have to take Taiwan and prove they could hold it before they would try to do anything else. And they might make a year before they do anything else. But I can tell you that what I've heard from Hawaiians, from the civil government there is kind of warning people that there may be danger of war with China. And I'm being told non-authoritatively by Hawaiians I've talked to, like everybody here is expecting the war with China. This is just what we kind of expect is happening. Now that could just be my chosen little lucky Hawaiians that I know, right? Which ain't a big authoritative thing, but I do understand that there have been warnings given out officially to the Hawaiian people that there's real warnings here and they're sort of on civil alert. And so what the Hawaiian source I have said, what everybody pretty much figures is that they would nuke Pearl Harbor and take out the fleet there, just like the Japanese did, which also was historically not an expansionist power, by the way, suddenly became one. And you take out the fleet at Pearl Harbor, and then you blockade the rest, and you take control of the communications and the grid. That's just priority number one. And if you have enough people on the ground you've bought, because that's again what you will have to have done, you'll have to have had enough people on the ground that you bought to accomplish it. You can take Hawaii, however. And one more thing, and then I'll let you guys go on. One more thing I know is some years ago, this is public information, the Chinese showed that they had a medium range missile. I don't remember how far it was, but it was something like 1,000-mile range, nowhere near a threat to anybody, but it was seabound, and it was easily strong enough to bust one of our carriers. They have carrier buster missiles.
Wait, I have to can I address somebody in the chat? I need to address somebody in the chat. Okay, so this is the problem with low information motherfucking news media people, right?
Oh, fuck you, man.
No, not
You're the low inform. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm talking. Look at the goddamn screen. All right, I have somebody's joint up right now.
I apologize.
I thought you had one opinion on. I'm sorry. I would have gave you one sooner. All right. So anyway, right. I just gave him a wrench. All right. This is the problem with low information fucking people on YouTube and low information motherfucking media sources. All right. Like if you would have stood here and listen to them, you would have thought Biden just in general likes China. All right. And this is that dumb, non-nuanced bullshit that
it's a little non-nuanced. I'm not gonna call them dumb, but
no. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people they listen to. Right. This is where the fucking company comes from. People, not. Think more Sean Hannity. Right, fucking yeah. Glenn Beck, right? Like these fucking worthless fucks who talk to boomers, right? You know what I mean? And so what they stand here and they go, oh, Joe Biden likes China. No. Jeff Vader, what up, man? Welcome.
Yeah, no. Right? He got friends. That's not the same thing.
It's a different thing. Corporations like manufacturing in China. Yeah. And Joe Biden is owned by these corporations.
Right.
So therefore, it looks like Joe Biden likes China, right? But he doesn't. You know what I mean? This is the problem. Like Joe Biden likes the military-industrial complex, but he doesn't like any country in particular, other than maybe Israel, because everybody has to like Israel, as a rule. You know what I mean? Right? But that's really where shit really is. And I want. I want everybody here to understand there's a huge difference between a Chinese corporate interest and China. All right. Because Chinese corporate interests are American fucking companies. All right. There's like Apple, HP, Google, all these companies manufacture all their fucking computers in China. That's why they were upset about Donald Trump fucking up their trade deals. Because they want to be able to fucking stand here and use slave labor to build their products and sell them to you. They want to be able to put their shit in the Walmart shelves because that's how they make money. And so, guess what? This is where that interest from China comes from, because it's American companies selling out their own fucking people. That's what people don't understand. And that's an important thing for all of you to understand, and everybody who hears my voice to understand. I will never tell you anything more important than that. There's a fucking difference between a trader, all right, and somebody who actually really, really likes goddamn China. There's a huge fucking difference. These cocksuckers are corporate people who care about greed, all right, and want these fucking trade deals, even though they're garbage for Americans and they're not helping you in the long run. They want to keep using the welfare that the United States is giving to them for their fucking security and all their fucking shipping bullshit and the goddamn fucking corporate tax breaks, while they continue to manufacture products using slave fucking labor and, propping up a bullshit regime that's fucking oppressing their people. That's really where it's at. Money and shit. That's really what this is.
Can I back you up on some shit? I want to back you up on that. Although I personally am trying to avoid using words like dumb and dumb fucking all that. but we agree. Okay, there's a certain delusional mentality out there about China we got to get over, and I'll actually say this: I was just giving a different kind of scenario, right? I actually think a Biden presidency makes war with China less, or would make with China less likely, or more likely to cease on quickly
Yo,
and on
hang on
more friendly terms.
one second. Atta Cal,
Yeah.
understand, like, yo, I am not calling you dumb in any way, shape, or form. I do not. I'm saying that, like, there's a lot of people out here who speak their mind and they're fucking stupid. All right.
Well, okay, fair
They're,
enough. Yeah, and you got
they're,
to watch out for these mainstream sources.
yeah,
You
they're
could.
fucking
There's a
trash.
very and really even trusting Trump. I mean, all his anti-China rhetoric would have made a war-like scenario that I'm talking about more likely, not less. I just have to give it to him, right? As much as I do not like anything about the current regime, let's admit that Trump would have made war with China more likely. It just would have. But okay, let's go back to my thought experiment of how this would work. Let's just say, put all the politics aside, and it's like, go time, motherfuckers. Bankers say go. Chinese party says go. We're taking down America. It would start by taking Hawaii, just obviously for every reason in the world, same reason the Japanese did it. And then, yeah, I would think that if they ever hit the U.S. mainland, they'd come down through Canada, maybe into Washington State, and I think maybe they could make it to I don't know, San Diego, or more likely they could succeed at Los Angeles, nearer to Los Angeles, more to the north. And so how do they do it militarily? They nuke Pearl Harbor and the fleet there, which is what a lot of Hawaiians think might happen, which would leave most of the island completely intact, by the way. And then they do have these things called carrier buster missiles, which there are 12 total aircraft carriers that the United States Navy operates on its own. And then I think there's 8 others that were made by the U.S. and that are operated by U.S. allies. Okay.
Both of Britain's brand new fucking aircraft carriers are now part of Navy fucking aircraft carrier groups.
Right. And so, but there's really 20 that could be taken out, and really plausibly, if in a couple of nuclear strikes they can take out a few, especially if there's a few sitting ducks at Pearl Harbor like was in 1941 for some reason. If there was a whole fleet sitting there, or a whole bunch of shit, let's say they take out 4 or 5 with a nuke, and then they defend the island by using these carrier busters that they're known to have, that have like something like 1,000-mile range of the estimate. Like,
I do have the number on that.
Okay, go ahead.
I do have the number on that.
I'm just playing the military game now because I don't think.
No. I want to hear the number. Let me hear the number.
Oh yeah, let's hear.
All right, they are called Dongfeng missiles. They have a 1,250 kilometer range, which is about 776 miles.
Right. Their only use is to bust a carrier.
Right, so we have a question.
We
have a question from the chat, right? All right, and this is from Culliver. He said, Pino News, question for the panel. Do you guys think China is afraid of India being allied to the USA? I'm going to let y'all go, and then, I'm going to tell y'all what's going on, because
I know that the India operates a couple of American carriers, at least, I think.
It's not really it. But, all right, like, is that what you had to say about that?
That's all I know, what I would say about India. I know that we have that.
I think that China already has its hands full with India as it is, and I don't think that if they try to make any sort of real move on that front, that the U.S. is going to stand on the sidelines. I don't know about like the full-throated like alliance there, but I don't think that China really. I don't think China's. I think China is not going to really have a good time no matter which major power it goes after right now, to be honest.
Well, then what? Then then what do you believe? There will be no war with China. It's just not going to happen. Or what
Uh,
do you believe it will look like? Or we could keep spurging out on the military options because there's only 20 aircraft carriers in the world. It looks like that they would have to destroy in order to break the U.S. and Indian navy's backs. 20 in total. But go ahead. You're calling this all implausible? What is plausible war, or is it just not going to happen? What's plausible to you?
uh, to be honest, it really depends on how the financial system winds down at this point, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well,
Is
wondering if the
because
financial bankers want us being at this level of war, because there's evidence that most wars ultimately is because central bankers somewhere want there to be a war.
you're not wrong. That's why World War One and World War Two happened.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but
why the Cold War happened, actually.
right, right. Uh,
So yeah,
Okay.
but
So
my point
here's
is more of like I don't know how who's going to be fighting who until I can. Oh, you just kicked him. Okay. Uh, like I
I didn't
don't
kick
know
him.
who's.
He's still here.
Oh,
no, I'm here. I'm just shutting up.
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Uh, I I don't know who's going to be fighting who until I see exactly where all the cards lay with all of this inflation that's going on right now. Because every single Western country, meaning, us, all of Europe, Italy, that type of thing, they have all been inflating the living piss out of their currencies. And I'm
Yep.
fairly sure that China has been doing the same thing. So until I see how that is handled internally by each one of those countries, I can't really tell you who's going to be going to war with who, because the way I see it is like whoever goes bust first is probably going to get invaded because everybody else is going to be trying to get a piece of whatever debts that they are owed in that country.
Okay. All right. Let me address this India question. If y'all can stand here and see this map, I'm sorry it's so small on the screen if y'all can't really see it. All right, here's the deal. All right. So India is, what I'm saying, attached to China right here in the corner. If you look directly to the west of India, you will see what is known as the Middle East. All right. And there's something that the Middle East produces. What's that stuff called? DKMA. What does the Middle East make a lot of? I forget.
Uh, Petrochemicals and oil.
Yeah.
Oil, that's right. So if China
So-
wants this stuff called oil, right, they have to go like what I'm saying, through India, right, and through the Indian Ocean to get it to goddamn China. Right. And that's the problem that fucking China has with India and the United States. Right. You know what I mean? Like, yo, that's the big issue right there, is that at any time, you know what I'm saying? And this is a major deal, right? At any time, India can take out a tanker going through fucking the Indian Ocean, right? Or going out of the Middle East, right? They're basically like the arbiter, you know what I'm saying, of fucking who gets to come in and out of the goddamn Persian Gulf. So with that being said, right? With that being said, here's the thing. In order to float a tanker, you have to have what's known as insurance, right? You know what I mean? Because, bad stuff happens, right? And you cannot take a tanker into a fucking war zone. Like the moment there is a war on, like, most companies will tell you as insurance companies that they are not going to let you take, you know what I'm saying, that fucking tanker there, or you'll have to pay like the fucking value of the tanker per week for fucking what the hell it is, you know what I'm saying, that you're moving. And that's really, you know what I'm saying, where it's at. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like why that's why India is, such a fucking headache for goddamn China. Go ahead, man.
I do want to make the point that I was asked a thought experiment about plausibility. I actually don't think we're going to see a hot war like I've described. I think there's many other ways to wage a war like this. And that most likely, actually, the Biden administration would be the one most able to make one not happen, because he's not that kind of traitor, right? But some kind of war with China just absolutely appears inevitable. So, I mean, if you're asking for plausible scenarios, I will point out that while I don't think it would go this way, here's the thing. We are in fifth generation warfare. And one of the other things about fifth generation is it used to be that control of the skies was he who controlled the skies won. That became the operating doctrine in the last half of the 20th century and has been up until now. He who controls the sky wins. Well, guess what? In 21st century warfare, fifth generation warfare, the theory is he who controls cyberspace wins. He who controls telecommunications and all aspects of it wins. And the U.S. Navy and its allies is based on fourth generation principles of control of the skies. If you take out its carriers electronically, because they are all completely computer dependent right now, every single one of them. If you could take, and they're all US made one way or another, if you can simultaneously take out all their electronics at once, and then bust them with these 700 kilometer range carrier busters, all of a sudden the entirety of the U.S. Military might is collapsed. Now, I don't think they could take out all 20 at once, but you know what? We would be crippled if they took out half our fleet. Now, I recognize that I'm describing like something out of a science fiction movie, but guess what? We're living in one. Take out those carriers electronically and then sink them and watch what happens to the U.S. naval power. Suddenly it's a different game everywhere. This is not what I think is going to happen, but don't tell me it can't be done.
Now, I mean, I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of talk about taking out satellites and things of this nature, right?
Yeah, well, we got a Space Force now for a reason,
right? And that's one of the big problems is that our communication is completely reliant upon satellites, and they're concerned that like, you know, fucking China would basically, you know, fucking just start taking out goddamn satellites and shit, you know. So that's, you know, I mean, really where, you know, I mean, that's at as a whole, you know what I mean? Fucking that's basically what you're talking about. Now, being able to take out, you know, I mean, things electronically through like cyberspace and cyberspace warfare. The problem is have you ever actually like actually been, you've never been in the military, have you, Max?
I have all kinds of friends who've been in the military.
No. Have you ever been in the military?
No, I just have friends in military intelligence backgrounds, but go ahead.
Okay, I got you. But I mean, like, if you've never actually like been in the military and like sat, you know what I mean, and like did work on like, yeah. Well, I actually went to go join the military, right? I went to go join the military, and even to like fill out like an ASVAB or like an ASVAB paperwork to take your fucking test and all this type of shit. They have a completely secluded motherfucking off-grid system.
Yeah.
That's like put to itself.
Oh yeah.
That's not connected to the fucking outside internet at all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. So
right. Like, I know. It's not like, you know what I mean, like, yo, wow, you're gonna take out Google, or you're gonna take out Apple, or you're gonna take out fucking Amazon. Like, gives a fuck. The military will stay intact.
Dude, okay, all right. Now that's all that okay. I'm gonna just tell you, my Bachelor of Science degree is dual major business administration and information technology, and I have about 20 certifications as network engineer and trainer, and I fight viruses for a living. I can only tell you is the bottom line is if those systems are compromised, no matter how hardened you say they are, you know, they're, you know, I'm not going to, my army of spurt keyboard warriors is not going to compromise their systems. But if they are compromised, if they are breached, or if they are simply taken out with, because they're not hardened sufficiently, so their systems go haywire, they're done. And that's a major weakness, and this is an acknowledged weakness. And you'll notice if you look at recent Department of Homeland Security releases, they're talking a lot about cyber attacks within the United States to take down our grid, and the military is concerned about cyber attacks on themselves, because the U.S. military also knows that if their systems are so now dependent on tech, that if they do get penetrated, they're fucked. They know this. I mean, so again, it becomes with treachery from within, hackers from within, or some other weakness that they have not gotten. You can simply, they might be able to take out a ship or more. And if they take out a few carriers, all of a sudden it's a new ballgame. This is not militarily implausible. I can assure you that there are members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff talking about this. It's a real threat. It's the way you would do it. You would have to destroy the fleet by taking out its comms, and taking out its computers. You take out its electronics, they're toast. They sink. They're done. So that's how the new generation of warfare.
All right. Let TK Mount check in. And are this XCC that's trying to make our satellites? No, believe it or not, I have a brother who actually works for a company who builds satellites, right? And it's based in like Rhode Island, right? Like, yeah. So I mean, that's really where it's at.
They're really balloons. The flat earthers are right. They're really balloons. I'm kidding. Go on.
It is worth noting that those Dongfang missiles, since they are nuclear weapons, as soon as China uses a single one of them, it just broke basically every nuclear arms treaty on the book. And so that even like say it goes worst case scenario and they just took out all of our aircraft carriers, right? Every single one of them. Well, first of all, you still have all the nuclear subs, which are gonna they're most of the time they are completely dark. They don't really have any communications. They just pop up and do a quick Geiger counter real quick. They're not going to know that it was just the aircraft carriers that were taken out. They're just going to know that, there's enough radiation in the air that somebody set off a nuke. And they've got procedures for that in place, that they're going to just start nuking people.
No, they're not. That's not how it works at all. I'm sorry. I've studied enough and talked to enough military. I'm sorry. First off, the president of the United States would have to authorize that for the first place. Second, if comms are down, I can assure you, submarines commanders are not authorized to launch missiles if comms are down. That's not going to be a standing order anybody's got for any circumstance. Won't happen. So again, the issue
is like, we do. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's Rockets, my nigga. I ain't fucking seen you in forever. How the fuck you been, man?
The bottom line is,
I ain't fucking seen you in the goddamn fucking Coons age, man. I fucking missed the shit out you. Man?
I am so glad to see all these people.
Discord and shit.
Thank you for listening to Old Men Rant and Young Men Rant. Glad to see you all. Really ask questions. And I'll just say again that basically you look, as a guy, I'm certified as a network engineer, and I chose not to go into cybersecurity, but I watch what they do at the hacker conventions, and I'm telling you, it's big security. You're definitely going to find that anything behind DARPA is going to be hardened like Fort Knox, but it is a constant fear of it going down, because not just the carriers, but also a lot of the other powerful ships. I'm forgetting what some of them are, but including just the ships that relay communications. They're all what they've come. They're all become what they call glass dependent. There's no mechanical moving parts on these ships. Ships that used to require 20, they require like a third to a quarter of the manpower to run these giant carriers than the previous generation of carriers, because they're so dependent on their electronics. Take away their electronics and those are dead in the water. And I don't know how the scenario would play out, but do that to the carriers or any of the other super advanced ships. Find the virus. Oh, hey, a computer. It mutates and goes to computers now. Whatever virus, traitors from within, saboteurs. You name all the names you want. That's how any big war would look. You would be taking out the cyber, because a lot of these ships can't operate without their electronics. It's almost like that science fiction "So Battlestar Galactica." Don't kick me for that reference, but that was a show about how a whole civilization was destroyed because all their high tech equipment was made to fail at once by hackers from within the defense network. And all their big ships were just taken out at once, and their civilization was destroyed by an enemy. I'm sure I can assure you at War College the generals must study these scenarios.
Yeah, I love that.
And
And like half of the problem is, first off, like we do have, what I'm saying, like 12 goddamn fucking aircraft carriers, right?
yeah,
And they're all super carriers and they're never in the same place.
right. Well,
Right. So
yeah.
literally you'd have to be, what I'm saying, in the Persian Gulf, in the Mediterranean, in the Atlantic, in Norfolk, in fucking Honolulu, over in you'd have to be fucking in Australia, in the fucking North Pacific. Like you'd have to be in 12 different goddamn places at once in order to succeed. Because let's be
Actually,
honest here. Wait, no, here's the deal, right? Check this out. So one aircraft carrier has the power, one of our super carrier has the power to defeat 7, not just 1, not just 2, 3, 7 fucking regular goddamn fucking aircraft carriers by itself.
okay. Can I nerd out on something? I'm just going to support you. I'm not
Go
arguing.
ahead,
I want to support
go
you
ahead.
somewhat, at least somewhat. If you go into Google Maps, you can say current U.S. aircraft carrier locations, and it will show you where every one of our carriers is currently located. It's interesting. Um, uh, uh, we've got one in the region that would affect Taiwan, and others off near Hawaii. 2 are off the coast of California. 2 are looks like in Virginia. One's over in the Middle East. I can keep going, but it's interesting. You can look this information up. Any of you nerds who want to know.
Ain't it weird how like off the top of my head I basically knew where they were gonna be?
Yeah, I mean, but they can move pretty fast. That's their main advantage is that they can move pretty fast. But then, of course, you have to war game it out. Let's say they simply remove that. They sink. Who's that there? The USS Ronald Reagan is off of Taiwan. Sink that. What happens to the entire war game dynamic at that point?
Like, then it they go like legitimately like what happens if you hurt us.
Well, yeah, but now you've got to figure out what to do with the other carriers now, and where do they go, and how does the rest of the fleet respond? Because they won't just take the carrier, of course. They'll take there's always a supporting fleet around it, but they'll have to deal with that too. But they're right there off Taiwan. Take that fleet down, and it's that carrier down, and its supporting fleet. Now shit's real.
Again, like but here's the thing, even without communications, right? Real shit.
Yeah.
We're still talking about like vehicles that have the ability to launch fucking jets and planes and goddamn rockets and bombs and rail guns and fucking shells, and we will destroy whatever the fuck you're gonna come close to us with.
That's the way the Americans act in war. That is exactly how we act. And so
Yeah.
it would be inviting incredible aggression unless you had plans for taking out other things.
You're gonna have to take out all of us. Like, we don't play that,
Well-
but like, we don't. Okay, look, nobody fucks with us ever. All
Fine.
right, when you do, like, you're literally kicking a fucking beehive because we don't deal with it very well.
Beehive as it may, the American people may well be all drafted into war. By the way, that wouldn't surprise me one way or the other.
Yeah.
But and women will go too this time. I'm sorry to spend whatever. They deserve it if they voted for feminism. The ones who didn't, I feel sorry for. But all sorts of voices I hear from the mainstream, even from the World Economic Forum, but also even the mainstream sources are like, the U.S. is going to, because of where it's at economically, the U.S. can't sustain its military operations and is going to have to become more polar multilateral operations. I'm actually wondering if the crippling of, let's say, 2 carriers within China's reach wouldn't just completely break the back. Like, I don't know, how hot would the war get? It would get hot, but it would also destroy us.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, let me explain something real quick. The reason why we are spread so thin is because we are trying to like manage the entire fucking world.
Right.
Like the issue is that we're not actually geared up for a war with a near peer anymore. We are 100% kitted out to just basically go stomp a mud hole in third world
Yes.
nations.
Yes.
Um,
That is how we're catered out. That's right.
so that's an issue there, but
Yeah.
you also have the issue of if we go to war with China, that forces America to start manufacturing inside the United States again. And I don't think that anyone in the world is ready for what would happen if the US actually got a manufacturing base back. Because,
Oh yeah.
like,
Oh.
there's a reason why they've been gutting it out,
All right. Well,
bit by bit.
now let's go into conspiracy land now,
Yo,
because
Michael
I'll
Michael
admit that.
Maroney, I completely agree with everything you're saying. By the way,
What's he
welcome to the
saying,
channel. Have a rent to make sure you
Michael?
drop me. Michael says
Erudite
China
Michael.
has its lights turned out in 6 to 8 weeks. China's a paper tiger. Peter Zion is completely right about that. He's not wrong. Right.
I don't know.
Well, no,
There's
no.
two
The
schools
problem,
of
the
thought.
problem is no, no. The problem is this. Right. Here's a problem. We will sink every goddamn ship that goes anywhere near China. They will not get another thing into their fucking country. No more oil, no more
It would be a
gas, no more
disaster for
fucking
them.
coal, no more rice. Do you know they're 50% reliant on us for all their fucking goddamn rice? Yo, nigga. Yo, man, this dude's over here getting a phone call in the middle of the fucking stream and shit.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
And
Like,
the other thing that we really gotta talk about as far as going to war with China is that, like, if shit pops off with China, we gotta understand that there's a good chance that we'd end up just giving nukes to Japan. Just because, even after we stomp a hole in them, we'll want China to be put in their place on that type of deal, and that's not going to be a fun situation for a lot of people because, like, China couldn't fight off Japan a couple hundred years ago, not a couple hundred years ago, like in the 30s, for a reason, and it's because the Japanese are crazy fucks. Like I think I love anime. That my
I
name implies as much, but that's gonna be a real kind of touchy situation if we get back on the level where Japan is actually a self-respecting nation again.
Here's the thing. I literally don't quite see it going this way, but in these extreme terms that I was describing, but I won't take any of it off the table as implausible, because I would agree that it would be disaster for China, and I agree that it could be disaster, most likely be disaster for China. It'd be disaster for us. On the other hand, let's go ahead and go into the. We know now we're not stupid about the world. People get played a lot. Literally, I think we know now Roosevelt intentionally parked the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor as a pretext for a war with Japan. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's what happened. And if somebody really wanted war with the U.S., they would put two carriers right in Pearl Harbor with their support fleet and maybe two carriers outside of Taiwan, and then go ahead and let China take them down and sink them, which would completely destroy so much, upset so many apple carts. It would be ridiculous. Do I consider that likely? No. Do I think it's impossible? Not at all. Just like I don't think alien invasions are impossible at this point. In fact, fuck me. Look, just Google News space aliens and shit, and they're talking like there's big alien disclosures coming, and we got a space force now. So I'm done mocking anybody's crazy ass theory. I do know it's militarily possible to break us, especially if we're set up to be broken.
I would just would just point out that my bet
Oh,
on
okay,
my
okay,
bet would probably be a fake alien invasion on
Oh, me
more than a
too.
real alien
Yeah,
invasion, but
me too.
that
But
I
okay.
do agree that
All right.
neither are completely off the table.
Okay, I
no,
was
they're not.
looking at this stuff that you sent to me in Discord, right?
Which stuff? Who?
TK Mao sent me some stuff in Discord, right?
Okay.
Hang on, let me see if I could. That's not what I want. Share screen. There we go. Okay, application window. Here we go. Okay, we'll share that real quick. All right, so this here is like I guess this is all the ballistic missile abilities of fucking China. Is that right, TK?
Yeah, that's a medium range
Mhm.
missile, the Dongfang. That is basically
The carrier buster.
right. It's a 15 to 20 kiloton nuclear firearm or
Yeah.
nuclear missile, and that is a um,
And we
map
say
of the kind of different areas that you can actually reach with it, basically.
right,
All
except
right.
if they're shipbound and there's ample evidence that they can go anywhere. And of course, we say carrier buster, but they can. There's other important types of ships that would also be targeted by such weapons. Obviously, you're not going to hit subs on it, but if the subs don't know what the fuck to do, they're going to return to home to port or something. They're going to have standing orders what to do if they got no comms. Um, um,
I do disagree with you that they're just gonna sit on their thumbs and wait for orders because
they would go
that
home. They would have
no
standing
no no
orders.
that
They would have standing
that
orders.
there's no standing orders that they'll tell civilians, dude. Like
Well, no.
if they don't have orders to launch nukes at somebody, if there are nuclear strikes that they can detect, because they will have equipment that can detect nuclear explosions, then there is no point to them, because the whole point of mutually assured destruction is it doesn't matter how many nukes you fire off at first. It
Okay.
doesn't matter if you take out the entirety of the continental US. We're still going to launch a bunch of nukes and take you out too. That
Two.
is the entire point of mutually assured destruction, dude.
I
You
must
cannot
push back
tell
at
you
you. I must
cannot
push back
tell
at
me
you.
that there is not contingencies for that plan.
Okay, I can only tell you that everything I know from having talked to members of the military, seen documentary, read the documentation, nobody ever gets to launch a nuclear weapon under any circumstances unless they have authorization from the President of the United States coming off that football. Period. It doesn't happen. End of story. You are maybe you know something I don't know, and if so, I want to hear it. Otherwise, you are positing things that sound wrong to me. If they don't have launch orders that they've received in some fashion, they're never to do anything. They'll have some kind of standing orders to do something else, return to port, or if that fails, go here, find comms on this channel. Unless they get word that the launch codes have gone out across the fleet, they're not to do it. And there would probably be officers who gave the order to do it would have other officers pull out firearms and say, no, we did not get orders from the president. We're not authorized to do that. You seem to be positing something very against everything I know. And while I didn't serve, I've studied this a lot. They're not going to just launch because they don't. We don't know. We can't hear from Washington. Our carriers seem to be gone. Well, I guess we're just going to launch on Beijing because we detected something launching from there. No, that's any submarine commander would be court-martialed for that. I'm certain of it. Um, no, you have to get orders from the football. That's what the football is. You know about the football?
Yes, of
Okay.
course I know about the football, but I'm talking basic bitch game theory, dude.
Well, okay. So you think submarine commanders have standing orders that, under certain circumstances, they can launch on their own? Okay, you think that? Maybe they do.
Okay.
Maybe they do.
All right. Let me say this, right? Okay. So the fucking the DF-41s and the DF-5s, right? Which are the Dongfang missiles. They're both ICBMs, but they're
Yeah.
not the aircraft missiles. They're not the aircraft carrier killers.
We're not talking about those. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, this was
those are
I,
different missiles altogether. Like, all right, so the aircraft busting missiles are actually a whole different fucking animal altogether.
can I well, but they're going to be in the similar class. It's a missile that really would only be used to take out large ships, large hardened ships. It would have no other use. And but anyway, I'd like to actually conclude in summary, since we have all given our opinions, and I'm starting to get tired. I just want to give some references, because I think actually we won't go to this kind of hot war. But if we do, I've described what I think is a plausible scenario. It would, but I would recommend the book. Oh crap! I would definitely see the movie Princes of the Yen. I would definitely research fifth generation warfare and realize how control of the internet waves, the internet lines, satellite or under the sea. 98% of our communications is under the sea. You take Hawaii, you've taken a real prize if you capture those communication lines in fifth generation warfare. Research that shit because I think we're being pushed to some kind of war. I just don't know what kind. And otherwise, God bless y'all. I want to just stop talking. I'm gonna check out. Have a good night. Okay.
All right,
All right,
later, dude.
all right, yeah. So the DF-21, which is like I don't know why they name them all Dong Fang. Apparently, that's probably like I don't know Dog Fang or something like that in Chinese, something along these type of things, right? Um, but yeah, so these are not like all right. So the Dongfang 21 is its medium range ballistic missile, right? And it's
Right.
able to be launched off of submarines, right? And it's an anti ship ballistic missile. It's not a air to surface or anything like that. It's a or not a surface to air missile. It's launched off of fucking goddamn submarine and launched at aircraft carriers, and that's what it's made for.
Right.
I just want us to be educated about what's going on. But yo, man, look, it is 11 o'clock. We've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. I'm getting hungry. I want to go fucking put a pork chop in me. So that's when I'm gonna go eat me a fucking pork chop and shit. Like, yo, dude, TK, thank you very much for coming out, my brother. It's appreciated.
All right. Thanks for having me on, dude.
You got anything else to say today? No, all right, cool. Well, anyway, yo, look, man, I'm Tom P. Shapino News. Y'all know the deal, man. Y'all like, share, and subscribe on this motherfucking channel. I'll be back with more content probably tomorrow afternoon. You know what I mean? And after that, y'all know the deal. I'm gonna holla at you. Peace.